veterans who we expected to be absolutely consistent this year have been the opposite of that. Maybe arguably even the worst players on the team. What do the Rockies do with German Marquez and Ryan McMahon? We'll talk about that next on the DNVR Rockies podcast. What is up, everyone? Welcome in live to the DNVR Rockies podcast, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code DNVR365. Place a bet for $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets. We are live from the Toyota Lounge, talking all things Rockies baseball. And I got to be honest, man, I was showing up to the show today, and I was thinking to myself, do we really have to? And not like I don't enjoy coming on here and talking to you guys, you as the fans. You make this an incredible job, and I will never complain about the job that I actually get to do covering, a Major League Baseball team. But the Rockies are just such a sad organization to talk about right now.
Yeah, it's not fun to talk about them, but we do enjoy talking to each other about it. We talk to each other, we talk to you guys, so appreciate you guys all tuning in.
The friendship is alive and well.
Exactly, and it really is like, I don't know how much longer we're actually going to be talking about Rockies baseball. It's going to be like the DNVR Rockies show that bleeds into tweets from people and things like that, which makes it fun, which we're having fun doing this.
How about them Nuggets,
But it is not the most fun to talk about the product we're seeing on the field. And after Thursday, we did our Thursday show. They go and win a road game, which I
felt
lost
like we were
a lot of money on.
Yeah, sure.
Shout out to the Rockies for losing me money as well.
You'll win some more as the season goes on. I have faith.
Well, and then the thing is then I backed off and didn't bet against them the next. I kind of did, but like I had so many things going on that other things had to go right, and I just couldn't take the juice on the money line there. But yeah, I was like, oh man, are we going to get a split?
You're like, maybe we'll be back. I actually texted you that, and I'm like, if the Rockies won this series or even split this series, it would be the greatest sports feat that we've seen so far this year. It might even trump the Nuggets winning their series against the Clippers.
Yeah, winning a Game 7 by 30 plus points. Or
if the Rockies
17.
win the series, that's us.
Rockies pushing a series in early May in San Francisco would top that. It would be pretty close to that.
It would. Well, this was a heartbreaking weekend, as you guys all know. If you're a Colorado sports fan in general, this was a heartbreaking weekend for our Colorado sports teams. And you encapsulated this perfectly because you said, I don't remember your exact wording of this, but basically the Nuggets went out and absolutely stomped. I mean, we're talking kick to the curb the Los Angeles Clippers. And theoretically, you should have been on top of the world, celebrating and excited and waking up the next morning feeling incredible about the Nuggets win, yet the Avs went and shit the bed. And so you wake up the next morning feeling almost worse than you would have expected to. That, it was the worst vibes I think we've felt all year. And again, on paper, the Nuggets going to the next round, you should have been feeling on top of the world. So Rockies and Avs just killed everything for us this weekend.
And I think it was a microcosm of how they lost. It's very similar.
Yes.
It's the first round of the playoffs when you have teams that are competing for titles is very different level than the Colorado Rockies and where they're currently at. But It almost felt very similar to Friday's Rockies game where they get a lead and you're like, oh my God. And then Chapman hits a grand slam and it's over.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, or maybe that was Saturday's game. One of the two games where you're like, they have the lead, their Avalanche had the lead, and then they completely crumbled at the end, and it made me feel sick to my stomach. Like, I could not sleep.
Their closer came in and blew it in the ninth. That's exactly what happened.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have not been that shook from a sporting event in a long time, and maybe it's just because we felt like the Avs actually had a shot at another parade to win it all. So maybe that's what hurts more. But I was legit like replaying the puck going off Sam Girard's skate in my mind over and over again, while also singing one of my kids' favorite like nursery rhymes. And it was just a fucked up. I did not sleep well at all.
Yeah, I think one of our friends of the pod, Nicholas, who's talked to us on social media a couple of times, he had said it best, and I know it feels wrong to say this. It feels like the wrong team won, right? You know, the Nuggets, you're like, you got to get through OKC, like, right? What are you going to do with that? The Avs, it felt like after you got through Dallas, there was a better line to the playoffs. But it brought up the question, to rein this back into baseball, what's the most devastating or, in your terms, infuriating Rockies loss in your lifetime? Because that was arguably the most infuriating Avs loss in my lifetime because, like you said, the way they lost that game and the expectations for them moving forward were so high that it just ripped the rug out from under you. What's the equivalent of that in Rockies fandom?
I would say that is probably... There's two that come to mind right off the bat. Number one, we're going all the way back to 2007 when they're in the World Series. First of all, the loss from the Cleveland Indians at the time was really the loss that did us in. That's what fucked us. And you can almost look at the Avs and Nuggets and think the same thing, or the Avs for sure. Like 2 losses in November that didn't seem like they mattered would have given them home ice against Dallas, change the whole thing, whatever. So the Cleveland Indians blowing the 3-1 series lead or 3-0 series lead to the Boston Red Sox started the downfall of what that current Rockies team was on in October. But losing game 3 when they got back to Coors Field was just a killer. Yeah. It was like, you know, series doesn't start till the team wins in the other team's arena or whatever field. And that losing that game 3, I was like, okay, they're at this point they're cooked. I also had tickets for game 5, so I was like, oh, just make it not a sweep. I want to see a World Series game. Never got to see that. But the other one that comes to mind was back in 2017 or 2018, the Rockies had a 92-win team, I want to say. I'm kind of spitballing here from memory. But
distant memory.
They had a chance with German Marquez, who will be featured on the show today, to beat the Dodgers in L.A. and win the division. Something they never have done and something they may never do.
Yep, exactly.
And they had a chance, and they go into Dodger Stadium, they lose. They still end up, like 2 days later, I was watching this in Maine, right? Funny enough, I was watching the wild card or the play-in game for the division in Maine. We got back to Boston and watched the wild card game where they beat the Cubs in 13 innings. Tony Walters walk-off single, or not walk-off, but game-winning single. So that kind of erased that memory for me a little bit. But yeah, the one chance they had to win the division and maybe their history, not only past but present and future, and it was taken right away from us by the fucking Dodgers. And I think Walker Buehler started that game for the Dodgers, and Marquez was kind of dealing. It was a close-ish game, and then the Dodgers just do what they do to the Rockies and just blew us out towards the end. And I was like, oh, that hurts so bad.
Knowing what you know now, too, and that, like you said, the Rockies will likely never win a series, or never win the division, I should say, in maybe our lifetime.
Series in this season also fits.
Yeah, it does. You're right. They may never win a series. I agree, man. That's why we thought it was like if the Rockies won the series or even split the series against the Giants. It was huge news. But knowing what you know now, it's like, yeah, that's up there. That's up there on the losses. Riley and I were talking about it before the show, and we were saying, you know, just that World Series as a whole, getting swept in the World Series, not even getting a World Series win. I know we're talking most infuriating loss specifically, but that's, as a whole, that has to be one of the most devastating things that can happen to a sports franchise. There are few things that hurt more than getting swept in a championship series, and the Rockies had that happen to them in their only World Series.
Yeah, and just getting the chance to be that close, because honestly, I can't. That's 18 years ago at this point, which feels like decades, which it is decades, I guess. That makes sense.
Yeah, right.
But if the Rockies had won the World Series in 2007, I honestly don't know how different of a fan I would be now in terms of my contentness with the team. Yeah. Because I would have a Rockies tattoo. I get a tattoo for every team that wins a title in this town. I would have my Rockies tattoo, and I honestly think I would be I wouldn't be as invested now because I'd be like, we got our World Series, and like I wouldn't hurt, all these losses and where the team is right now wouldn't hurt as bad because all I think is like, can we get that one before I die?
Yeah.
And the trend that they're on is like, no. It's giving me absolutely no chance. Yeah. If they had won in 2007 and now they were like this bad, I'd be like, hey, like anybody talk shit to me, I'd be like, do you remember 2007?
Yeah,
and then it could be over. But now I think it's just watching them and with the hopes that at some point they'll be back in the playoffs and get to a World Series again, which just feels light years away, it makes it hurt a lot worse. And one thing I will say, and I'm trying to find, I got my purple glasses on all the time, is that in the MLB, take the Rockies out of it, because if we see what it is and the national media sees what it is, and I get it. I get it. It's bad. But we've seen the Orioles go from 115 losses to turning around and making the playoffs. We've seen the Tigers do that in a year. And the Tigers, 5 years ago, the Tigers, it was like, oh my God, is this the worst team ever?
The Royals.
The Royals, they've done the same thing. So while I'm not saying that this is a strong possibility for our little avenue of the Colorado Rockies at 20th and Blake to do this, it's not out of the realm to me. And it's not out of the realm that in 3 or 4 years, maybe if we're still doing the show together, we're like, hey, 4 years ago, we thought this was never a possibility. They get some pieces. They hit catch lightning in a bottle, and they're making the playoffs. Like, it's not out of the possibility in baseball to see a team have a turnaround like that. We just thought it may have happened one of these 2 years after their worst year, and then the even worse year, and now headed to an even worse, maybe historic worse year.
Yeah. Well, Josh puts in the chat, what comes first, 10 wins or 50 losses? You mentioned historic, and our second segment, although we're kind of bleeding segments together here, I do want to talk about, like, what's the possibilities of how low this team can actually go. I would like to answer Josh's question and say that the Rockies hit 10 wins before we hit 50 losses. But Riley, if you could pull up a tweet that I sent you, a screenshot of a tweet. This was from one of our viewers, friend of the pod, and a good guy on Twitter, Nicholas, sad Rockies fan, says, fun fact, the Rockies are now the only team in the MLB to not yet achieve double-digit wins. The White Sox just won their 10th game yesterday. The Rockies have only won 6. That's awful. Like, that's as bad as it can possibly get. You're not only is it like, oh, hey, you haven't even hit the 10 win mark. You're not even close yet. You've barely overcome the 5 win mark to get to that 6 spot. So if we're going based off trends, 50 losses is going to come first. If we're going based off of purple colored glasses and the hope that this team will turn some things around, then 10 wins will come first. But a big part of that, if we're going to be able to pick up any wins, is the fact that we need to have some of our veterans playing like they should be playing. And the 2 names that come to mind is German Marquez and Ryan McMahon. And we've spent a little bit of time talking about Ryan McMahon last show, so I want to spend more time talking about German Marquez. This is the last year of his contract. He had a 2-year extension that he signed 2 years ago, $20 million with the Colorado Rockies for 2024 and 2025 season. The rate he's going now, I don't think German Marquez is going to be in a Rockies uniform in 2026. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I completely agree. I don't know if maybe a change of scenery will help him, but I don't know if he has any major league jersey to wear with the way he's pitching. And we kind of talked about this, and there is some Coors Field, like, if anybody in the chat or anybody watching this remembers Jeremy Guthrie, I was kind of explaining it to Christian here. Jeremy Guthrie back in the day had like a 10 ERA away from at Coors Field, and like a 1 ERA away from Coors Field for like an entire year. He was just a 1 late veteran signee in training camp, came in and was nails away from Coors Field and was terrible at Coors Field. And so when I look at the starting pitching, I'm like, German should have it figured out a little bit better than others because he's pitched here for so long and basically been a lifetime Rocky. But he's not pitching well on the road either. And not that it's, against that Giants lineup and in that park is an easy place to pitch. Nothing comes easy for the Colorado Rockies right now, but the signs are there watching him just kind of explode again yesterday, where like every starter that pitches, that's a Rockies starter that pitches at Coors Field 15 times a year or whatever their starts line up, they're going to have one of the 2 of those like 7-run innings where you're like, oh my God, that's bad.
Yeah.
But then they can kind of fix it. From what I've seen from German Marquez this year, after I believe his first start, I was looking at his game log here. I believe his first start, he was 6 innings, 4 hits, no earned runs. Then he goes to Philly, that was the start in Philly. His first start of the year at Philadelphia, great lineup, 6 innings, 4 hits, 0 earned runs, 4 strikeouts. German Marquez is back.
Yeah.
And since then, his ERA's jumped to 2, to 4, to 8, to 9, to 9.8, to 9.9 in his last 6 starts.
Yeah.
Not good.
Not good at all. And I think it's the way it's trending that's the issue with, you know, German Marquez. You look at him and you say, okay, he's got some stuff. He's got a high 90s fastball when he's feeling good. He's got decent off-speed stuff, but he's leaving stuff in the zone. He's making veteran mistakes. And remember, German Marquez is 30 years old, right? Like, this isn't, you know, some 27-year-old who's like just kind of going through a slump, like your Michael Toliak kind of thing, where you're like, he's going through a really bad slump, but, you know, he's kind of young. He can hopefully turn this around. I just don't know if German's got another year or two of jumping back on the train here. Like, that's the issue. And Burge says it depends on the price. I agree with you completely. And when you're getting $20 million a year, or $20 million in contracts, you know, it's hard to go and take, you know, a $2 million contract or even a $1 million contract to just pitch for almost league minimum at that point, you know, after that. So I don't know. It's just going to depend on what his expectations are. But I truly, if he continues this way, I don't even know if he makes it to the end of the year. I mean, you can't be a starter as a veteran, a 30-year-old starter pitching on a team that has a bunch of young guys that need to get those reps. And Blaylock looks good right now. At least he had a good start. Carson Palmquist is throwing really well in the minors. Gabriel Hughes is looking really good. Like, there's guys who are kind of knocking on the door a little bit, and I don't know if you have the time to hold on to German.
And that's super fair, and that's exactly kind of what I was going to say. You're a little more dialed in with what's happening in the minor leagues, but if there's guys knocking on the door, there's going to be German's going to have to open it and decide whether he's going to at least continue to pitch for the Rockies, or they're going to cut him, or they're going to let it cut bait, or try to trade him. You don't know. You know, like, change of scenery does help certain players, and maybe somebody sees something in him that they'll go out and trade a prospect for him. But if there are a few guys knocking on the door that are pitching well in the minors, wouldn't shock me to see maybe all young, and Austin Gomber's still kind of there too. I mean, I know he's hurt, but there's guys, like, if you have nobody to fill in for him, you're like, all right, we're just gonna gut out his 3-4 innings of 6-7 runs, whatever. But if there's guys knocking on the door, and a guy like Austin Gomber, who pitched pretty well last year, can get healthy, there's going to be a reason to definitely not start German Marquez. He's
in the list, and we got to hit our next break here in a second, but he's in the list for me, the category for me of guys who I'm just, every time he starts, I'm like, just praying that something good happens. Ryan McMahon was in that list. Tolia was in that list of, like, I want them to get back on board. I want German to be really good. It would be awesome if German was locked in. So hopefully he can turn things around, but if not, we're going to keep having this conversation as things go. But I asked the question, when we come back, how low can the Rockies actually go? What is the history that's at stake for the Rockies? That's coming up next. Well, hey, I want to give a shout out to one of our new friends over at LinkedIn, because if you are a small business owner or a business owner of any kind, you know one of the most important things of owning a business is making sure you hire the right people. Hiring people not like Spencer over here, you know, who's kind of a degenerate sometimes. Making sure you hire the good people that are a fit for your company. And LinkedIn makes it faster and easier and more effective to find the right match for your business, whatever that is. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And, there's a lot of people out there for whatever jobs you're looking for. There's a lot of choices, so you want to make sure that you really narrow it down to the choices that are going to be the best fit for you. And I could say, I know I was joking with Spencer, but, like, I could say, wholeheartedly for DNVR, like, one of the greatest things of DNVR is the fact that we've hired such incredible people that have built up this company. And you can see that translates when you see what our product is, and how engaged a lot of our fans are throughout all of our different shows, throughout all of our different coverage. And so you got to make sure you have a company like LinkedIn backing you up, making sure that you get the right candidates for your job. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/Rockies. That's linkedin.com/Rockies to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Well, we also got to give a shout out to our friends over at Bet365, because at Bet365, we don't do ordinary. Every single sport is epic, even if those sports are losing, even if the Avs are walking away from a heartbreaker, even if the Rockies are, 6-28 or whatever the heck they are right now. As we always say, you can make some money on that if you are so inclined. Use code DNVR365 when you sign up. Deposit $5 and place a bet of $5, I should say. Get $150 back in bonus bets. You can also take advantage of their first bet safety net offer by placing a bet of up to $1,000. And if your qualifying bet loses, you receive a match refund in bonus bets. So maybe if you had taken advantage of that first bet safety net offer, if you had put your $1,000 bet or whatever it was on the Rockies, win total this year, you might have had a little bit of a safety net there.
Yeah.
Instead
It'd be nice to get that back and try again. Try
instead of being
again
on
in
the hook.
2025 or 6.
Yeah, you'll get them next year, man. You'll get them next year. Well, like I said, use that code DNVR365 when you sign up and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. How low can you go? How low can the Rockies go, to be specific? It feels like I can't use the term the sky is the limit. And I also feel like you can't really use the term the floor is the limit, because that implies that there is a limit by the floor.
Yeah,
how bad can the Rockies be this year? Is this a team? Because I know we've said, the Rockies are on pace for less than 30 wins this year. And I keep sitting here and saying, no. Like, they'll figure it out. They'll kind of turn things around at some point. I don't mean like go back to being a playoff team or anything, but like become a average bad team, not just a historically bad team. But they've continued to prove us wrong, man. They've continued to go out there and say, how bad do you think we can be? We're going to be 5 steps worse.
Yeah, and you actually made this point to me earlier, which was crazy because I guess I blocked the season out of my mind after it's over.
Yeah.
But the Rockies were almost as bad last year at 8-25 at this point.
Yeah, Riley, I sent you a graphic on this. Can you put this graphic up when you get a chance? Yeah, same time last year, they were 8-25. They're only 2 losses behind this time last year. You can see them on the right side of your screen. This is basically plus or minus win totals and records at this point in the season for all teams. The Rockies are only 2 games behind where they were last year.
And that's what makes me think about the fact that they will turn it around. I mean, the Rockies teams from after they made the playoffs in 2017, 2018, and then they had a run of pretty bad years, but very middling years, like 70 wins, 65 wins, whatever. And then 3 years ago when they had the really bad first 100-loss season, it was like, whoa, this team's bad.
Yeah.
And then they did it again last year. They're well on their way to doing it again this season. But the overall feeling of the team was like they would always come out and kind of trick you at the beginning. They'd win a few games in April. They'd start their first homestand. They'd win, walk-offs on opening day like last year. They'd win a series here and there, and you'd be like, maybe this is a 500 ball club. And then in June or July, they would lose like 20 in a row or 20 out of 22 or something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe that point of the season is just now earlier, because I do believe at some point they're going to win like 4 of 5 or 5 of 6. I do think that's going to happen.
Would be huge if true.
Huge if true, but I believe that they can't be this bad. And maybe the interjection of some Tyro Estrada. These glasses are so tight. These purple glasses
I just
so
like
tight
how
on my
you're
face.
you're like begging yourself to be right. You're sitting here like, I believe it, man. I really believe they're going to be better. I'm with you.
I do believe at some point they will. Striking lightning in a bottle is no longer being a playoff team. It's no longer making a World Series run. It is, can you win? I'd say even at this point, it's a series, and then back that up and win another series. If they win 4 out of 6 at some point, 2-3 game series, I will be over the moon.
Yeah. I mean, I know now that half of our playoff schedule is done. We had already talked to our DNVR crew, the people who make the decisions. We want to get some watch-alongs going just to be miserable all together and see if the Rockies can actually get a win. If the Rockies were to get a series win, it might almost warrant an emergency pod. It might be that big of a deal. We might have to hit the "are we back" type of situation. It's not great. And Felix brings up the point in the chat: when does Tovar return? His bat will help for sure. That's the other part of it, is you're missing a handful of good, if not average, players. Tovar being one of them. And to answer your question, Felix, I don't actually know. I haven't gotten any updates. They were saying possibly into middle of May. Hopefully that's kind of giving it some buffer. Hopefully he's back in the next couple weeks. But Tovar's hurt. You have Doyle, who's been trying to bounce back from a slight, bang up of his hip, if I remember correctly, but then also being out on bereavement. He's got a ton of stuff going on outside of baseball that's just awful, that's really hard to kind of do both at the same time. Estrada's out, and who knows what he would have looked like this year. And again, not sitting here saying they would have been a 500 team, but you would have hoped that they could have at least been a little bit better. The crazy part for me is when I came on last year to start covering the Rockies, and I was a Rockies fan before that since I went to college here in 2016, I believe. I've been a Rockies fan, but I wasn't like following the team as I am now. And I started, covering the team in July of 2024 last year. And the first 2 weeks of the season for me, the Rockies went out. I think they won 2 series, if I'm not mistaken. One of them against the Red Sox, and I believe one of them against the Braves. Sam Hilliard hit a walk-off home run in like the 16th inning in the first game that I went to. The Rockies put up 20 runs against the Red Sox. They had that 7-run comeback. This Rockies team, and you had said it before the show, you were like, on paper, you're looking at it like they're still bad. They're not, I'm not surprised. I'm not sitting here kidding myself saying that they're good, but they're at least fun. Like, this is fun baseball, right? Like, we're not even getting those kind of games. If the Rockies even got a walk-off win this year, I would be on top of the moon, man. And we thought we were going to have that against the Dodgers. We were this close, although it wouldn't have been a walk-off. But, Chris Bryant was this close to hitting a game-winning, double or something like that. But, yeah, it's just not... I do think the lowest of lows are on the table. And I think, to kind of segue a little bit, I think some of the players are starting to get a little frustrated. Kyle Freeland, specifically, I was reading Patrick Saunders, incredible writer with the Denver Post who covers the Rockies. God bless him. He came out with this article a couple days ago, and Kyle Freeland has this quote. He says, this team, this is the team I want to win with. I signed up for 5 more years to be a part of this. I want to win here to be a part of this, but we're going in the wrong direction. And I've talked to Kyle Freeland a couple times after games, and he's visibly very upset. Like, out of all the guys in the clubhouse who are like actually seem as upset as the record, mirrors, he's up there. Like, he's pissed.
Yeah, and I love that fire, and I hope Kyle Freeland never loses that fire. But he has like more invested to this. Like he said, he signed up. Grew up here in Colorado, watched the Rockies as a kid, becomes the Rockies ace, now has the most starts in Rockies history. Like, this means something to him, this team and this actual city. A lot of the other guys, I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything to them to win. That's false, patently false, because they all made it to the major leagues because they wanted to win baseball games and were incredibly good at the sport. But it feels a little more personal with Kyle, and I don't think there's anybody else off the top of my head where you can kind of say that it's personal. Doyle's he's been a long time, or a lifetime Rocky when it comes to major league service. Yeah. Guys like Beck and guys that have come up through the entire organization and now playing at the major league level. But it feels personal to Kyle, and Kyle's also the most fiery guy on the team. So that makes sense, and it's frustrating for them to go through this year after year. And like he said, he signed up for 5 more years of this to be part of the solution, which I love him for so much, and I hope that he continues that fire. And those are the guys that you want the team to win for. Like, it was much like Todd Helton back in the day when he dropped to a knee after beating the Diamondbacks in that Game 7 of the NLCS, and just knew it meant so much more to a guy like that. And if Kyle sticks around and is even
2027 is his contract.
If he's here in 2027 and they start, something, lightning strikes and they start winning games and they have a shot at the playoffs, like, that will mean so much to him. And I appreciate that as a fan, because, as much as it sucks and we can all pile on and say, sell the team and say this and say that, like, some of those guys still do care. And that's what I've told people in general, is especially like people that are like my brother who love him. He went to the Rockies game with us the other day, unwillingly, but he went with me. And he's out on the team, which is fair. But I'm in on the guys that are here, and I still want to root for the guys that are here. And that's the root of my fandom for this team is, am I pissed at the organization? Am I pissed at the GM? Am I pissed at the owner? Do I wish they would sell? Yes. But while everything's still the same, I love this team, and I like the players, and I think the players can be better than they are right now. Not saying they're a playoff level, but this individual collection of players can be better than a 6-27 baseball team.
It does feel like that. It does feel like an underperformance of some sort. But also, you look at it on paper and you're like, it's just every single time the Rockies put out a lineup, I look at that lineup and I'm like, this is our lineup. Like this is really what we're throwing out there to face the Dodgers today. Really, and that's the part that I think grounds me sometimes is that. This is a down bad in a way that we haven't seen before. The Rockies have the worst worst record, I should say, in the majors. They also have the worst run differential, -77, lowest batting average, 211 as a team, most strikeouts, 312, and our 5.3 team ERA was the third highest, trailing only Miami and Baltimore, which is crazy that Baltimore has that. That's almost worse actually for them because they should be a playoff team. And the crazy part about this is the Rockies' 25 errors were also the third most in Major League Baseball, behind only the Red Sox and the not-to-be-named Oakland or Sacramento Athletics. So even the one thing that Rockies fans could hang our caps on and say, our defense is really freaking good. Nope, not anymore. Not anymore.
I heard somebody call it the Coors Shield. I thought that was cool.
Was that a Drew Goodman thing? That feels very Drew. Maybe Corey Sullivan.
Yeah, maybe it was on the broadcast, but they
feels
said
very much like a
that Coors Shield was the thing that they should be able to hang their hat on, with 2 Gold Glovers at shortstop and at center field, and a former Gold Glover at catcher apparently, and Scott Stallings. I fucking do it every time. Whatever. I'm just gonna call him Scott. Scott Stallings.
Toil and Dovar, baby.
Former Gold Glover as well. But yeah, when you have him at those premium positions. And then you have hopefuls for the Gold Glove and like Rymack and Tolia. Like defense should be decent, and they're third leaders in the major leagues in errors. They're leading the categories that are not good, and they're bottom in the categories that they need to be good in.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be a long year for us. Nate in the chat says insane that there are even viewers for this show. It's a bunch of sickos, man, and we're proud of it. We're proud of the sickos that watch our show. Us Rockies fans, man, they're pretty crazy. Shout out to all the crazy Rockies fans who are somehow still here.
They are, and we alluded to that a little bit last pod, but talking about Kirkshin and Buster Olney, talking about, do the Rockies have the best fans in the MLB? And, if you can separate your fandom to the players and the team itself versus the organization, which I've kind of done.
Yeah.
I think you can still be a fan of this team and still get excited for I was trying to talk my wife into going to the game tomorrow for the Dollander start. Of course, it's supposed to pour and probably not even happen. So she's like, we're not going.
There's no way it gets.
But yeah, like those little things, like Dollander's still exciting. There's still some exciting pieces on this team. It's just a matter of putting the puzzle together. The puzzle's not only not in the box. This puzzle's fucking in half of your house. Your dog took one piece down to the basement. Your cat's got one upstairs. There's one that's fallen out the window. I mean, the pieces to this winning puzzle are not even close to being put together.
We're just a bunch of sickos here watching some good old baseball throughout this summer. Well, we got to take a break. After the break, speaking of fans are making a change so far, and I talk about what the Rockies are on pace for attendance-wise coming up next after the break. Well, look, if you are going to be watching some Rockies baseball or just enjoying sports of any kind, Rockies, Nuggets, the Rapids are back in action, whatever it is, Coors Light is the perfect way to pair with your good sports viewing. And Coors Light is our personal favorite here on the show. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a nice cold Coors Light at Coors Field on any day. Maybe not so much Tuesday since it's going to be dumping rain. I will say Coors Lights are probably enjoyed better inside on rainy days than they are outside. But still, I mean, again, we just talked about our viewers and fans being sickos. Maybe there's some sickos out there that are going to be out at Coors Field just chugging Coors Lights in the pouring down rain.
My son is actually a fan of Coors Light. He doesn't drink them. Let's stop there.
Your 2-year-old son. Okay.
Okay. But every day when I leave the house, I go to grab like some drinks out of my basement beer fridge.
Yeah.
And every day he does the same thing. He opens it up before me. I grab the non-alcoholic drinks that I drink at work.
Yeah.
And my whole bottom shelf is Coors Light. He always grabs a can, brings it upstairs. So I have like 4 cans of Coors Light upstairs in my fridge because he brings and he will not let me take it. He will only grab it and bring it up the stairs.
Does he like that the mountains turn blue? Is that like his thing? Is it more of a design thing for him?
He does. He probably loves the Blue Mountains. He loves the Silver Bullet. he puts his mouth on like the cold can, and he's also trying to open the can. He can't yet, so I don't worry too much about it. But once he can pop
You're
the
not
can
locking
open,
up your alcohol just yet for your 2-year-old.
Yeah, once he pops the can open, I may have to start figuring out some things. But yeah, he just loves to bring a Coors Light can up the stairs every day.
Love it. I love it. It's, it's Coors Light can be enjoyed by all in very different ways, but enjoyed by all. Well, make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instant Cart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company in Golden, Colorado. Also got to give some love to our friends over at Toyota. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR, of the Rockies, and of Colorado. I've said that before on the show, and I'm not afraid to say it again. I mean, you go outside and it's like, 7 out of the 10 cars driving down the road are Toyotas. There's a reason for that. I mean, Toyotas are, they're iconic here in Colorado.
There's a Tacoma right there, front and center.
Look at that.
At the stoplight.
Yeah, see, and also a little RAV4 hanging out behind. Yeah, it's everywhere you go, you see Toyotas, and there's a reason for that. They are, in my personal opinion, the best cars that you could possibly own. You have a Tundra, I have a Highlander. I'm looking to get a RAV4. Marissa, when she gets a new car, she's looking to get away from one of the other car brands that she's owned for a little bit and get back into the Toyota world. There's just a reason for that. They are so reliable, so many different choices, and also they look really good. They feel good too to drive around in. So visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Toyota, Arapahoe in Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson's Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. All right, so we talked about the fans going into that last break, and I know we've got a bunch of sickos that love Rockies baseball, but we are noticing a change. If you go to Rockies games recently, even some of the bigger games, and bigger being in air quotes, fans just aren't showing up. And again, you and I have said this. We'll always show up. We love the Rockies. It's why we call ourselves the sickos. But we don't fault someone for not wanting to spend their money going to Rockies games just because the team is terrible. Rockies are averaging just around 25,000 fans per game at Coors Field, ranking 18th in the majors. Just a little stat pack here for you, or a little history note. The Rockies have not finished in the bottom half of MLB attendance since before 2007. So even with the, 6 now consecutive losing seasons, all the bad stretch before 2017, 2018, the Rockies have always been over the 15, on the top half, I should say, of MLB attendance across all 30 teams. And they are on pace to now be in the almost bottom 10, which is, and you talk about wanting to wake up the ownership for the Colorado Rockies, that's the first way to do it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's been, I think that's part of people's deep-rooted issue with this team and this franchise in general, is the fact that they're bad, and everybody wants to go watch a winning baseball team or football team, whatever team you go to. If you're a fan of it, you want them to win the game. That's the most John Madden thing I've ever said on this podcast.
Attaboy.
But but it pisses people off when they're sitting at home, probably not watching the game, or they catch a highlight and they're like, "Oh my God, the stadium's full." Like that will not incur any change in ownership or the front office if the stadium's constantly full. So you want to start really putting some pressure on them and making sure that they're feeling it in their wallet, because that's ultimately what will get them to sell, I would imagine. Then don't show up to the games. And I don't blame, like you said it easy, I don't blame you for not going to the game. I like to go to the game because I like to bring my son. I want to get him into baseball as a sport. I grew up going to Coors Field. It's still a beautiful place. They've got a bunch of different things. Like, he loves
Baseball
the playground in left field.
Yeah.
And Coors Field in the summer on a 6:40 start on a Friday when it's 75 degrees is unbeatable.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to take away that experience from myself or my own family because I'm mad at the team. Like, if you do, so be it. But when we did the thing on the rooftop Friday a couple Fridays ago, granted it was fucking terrible. I was so cold.
It was so cold.
We just need to do more push-ups to get warmer. But when I took a picture of Jordan Beck hitting a home run up at the thing, and then there's like the left field stands, I almost wanted to crop him out because it looked so bad. And then we got a few. Guy Mitch was like, "Yeah, tens of people saw that." And I was like, the ball's like bouncing around the outfield for 10 minutes before somebody picks up the home run because there's so few people in there.
But pinball out there.
I don't blame people for not wanting to spend their money on it.
Sure.
I'm just saying that I'm going to continue to do it because I enjoy baseball. I enjoy being like once this Nuggets run is over, there's a lot of soccer fans, and I know the Rapids are on the up and up, so that's something you can go to, and that's something I want to get to this summer. But really, it's like I like to watch golf and I like to watch baseball, and I can drive 20 minutes from my house and go to one of the most beautiful stadiums in the league and sit there in the warm and drink Coors Light. I'm gonna fucking do it. Sorry.
Yeah. I love it, man. I mean, I went on a rant yesterday or Thursday's show about why I still go to games, and aside from the fact that I cover the team. And so, yeah, no, I'm with you. I agree. Again, I'm no judgment to people who check out, but this is the team for better or worse. And you talk to all the Nuggets guys, all the Avs guys, and those teams went through their own version of hell at their point too, and they're still here, and look at where they are now, right? Like it's just part of being a sports fan. You kind of got to be through it. Through the ups, be with it through the ups and downs.
Well, and I will elaborate on that a little bit. I'll tell you what, Rockies fans, those of you listening out there, this sucks. There's no way around how much this sucks right now. But if this Rockies team gets good again, you'll think back to these days, and it will make it so much more worth it. I promise you that. And I'm not saying that you should be slapped into the mud and hit over the head with a shovel a million times for it to feel good when your team wins a championship. Yeah. But once this happens, and it will, and sometime in our lifetime, if you're watching in your late 20s, mid 30s, whatever age you are, if you're an older listener, I can't promise anything. But for us being 30 years old or less, at some point they're going to make the playoffs again. At some point they're going to win a World Series in our lifetime. I'll stamp that. And it's going to feel absolutely incredible when this team is good again. But
think about the Nuggets. It's how it felt when the Nuggets won it. I mean, it was just the people who lived in Denver their entire lives was like this breath of fresh air. Oh my God, they've finally done it.
Exactly. And like you said, I actually wrote an article on this way back in college. I was writing for a freelance website. You get paid by views. It was just something I did for fun. And I wrote an article about how to be a fan, and I know everybody loves telling other people how to be a fan, and I just saw it from my perspective. But to me, if you're a real Rockies fan, you have to deal with the team you don't get to enjoy the team when they're good and not enjoy the team, or not hate on the team, or not pay attention to the team when they're bad. And that's my personal opinion, but I'm going to be a Rockies fan until I'm dead. And whether they're bad or good, obviously it hurts a lot more when they're bad and feels a lot better when they're good. But if you're a true fan of the team, you have to deal with the ups and downs. All the teams have them. I mean, the Rockies will win as many playoff series this year as the Colorado Avalanche. That's just a fact of the matter. So you have to deal with all the ups and downs, and that's part of being a fan. That's part of what makes it fun.
Such an interesting take. I love that. Very, very optimistic, very glass half full. And look, you kind of have to try to be at some point. I mean, there's only so much. I can sit here and yell at you guys all day. Oh, the Rockies suck. We're terrible. We're the worst team in baseball. And at some point, it's like we gotta look towards the future. And so I do want to look towards the future. I do want to I want to hit one more little road bump and then kind of talk about, what's next. How do the Rockies get back on track at some point after all of this is said and done? And I will say, I think someone has said it in the chat. I think it was, what was it, Xenos? Maybe that said it a couple chats ago. But the upcoming schedule coming up is a little bleak, which doesn't make you feel a little more confident that this team is going to come back. Over their next 27 games through June 1st, the Rockies will not face an opponent with a current record below 500. So there is a lot of good teams mixed into that range, those series. We start with the Tigers coming up here tomorrow. The Rockies have a day off today, so I saw someone say marked safe from watching the Rockies today.
Yes.
You love to see that.
I love that. I created that, for the record.
You did.
Anybody using that on Twitter, that's my copyright.
Copyright.
I'm the first person to ever do that.
yeah, Big Fly Spence. Copyright here. But do you feel like the Rockies can pick up a win against the Tigers? You think they can steal a win? Tigers are a pretty damn good team.
So we've got is it Jackson Jobe tomorrow?
Yep, we got Jobe.
2-0 with a 3.3 ERA. Doesn't look good. Wednesday, we've got Casey Mize, who has got a nice 2.7 ERA and has already won 5 games. And you get a Tarek Skubal game on Thursday.
Jordan Beck's batting practice, Tarek Skubal.
Yikes. It doesn't look great. It doesn't look great for this series.
For this offense.
Maybe they'll sneak one. Maybe, I mean, it's Senzatella versus Skubal, but maybe you'll get a pitcher's duel like we had against the Braves the other day with Chris Sale. Hey, they could beat the reigning NL Cy Young winner and the reigning AL Cy Young winner in the same 2 weeks.
That would be incredible. Would be electric. That would be incredible. The narrative is alive and well at this point for that. Yeah, that would be That'd be interesting. I will say the Rockies have surprisingly played up to their opponents this year. And I'm not saying from a wins and losses, but again, you look at those Dodgers games outside of the one they got wrecked on, they had a chance to possibly win a game against the Dodgers. I mean, we're talking, best team in baseball, most talent in the history of baseball. And they played up to their standards. It's been kind of the teams like the Reds and the Braves even, where you've just kind of looked at it and you're like, man, what are we doing? We're just we can't even get a hit. Chris Sale was a prime example of that. The Rockies played better against Chris Sale than they have against some of the most mid pitchers in the entire NL West.
That dude from the Padres who was throwing like 89 and
Kyle
just
Hart.
absolutely shutting them down.
From the KBO, Kyle Hart, looking like a Cy Young out there. Yeah, like what are we doing here? Chris Sale is nothing, but Kyle Hart, man, we can't touch him. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to unpack here when it comes to the Rockies' upcoming games. One specific thing I want to talk about. I think there is one thing out of this entire season, if there's any one specific thing that can single-handedly turn the Colorado Rockies season around, I'll talk about it when we come back. Well, DNVR Rockies is brought to you by UC Health, the official healthcare partner of the Colorado Rockies. The UC Health is an incredible partner of ours, and they really help us to, like I said, learn to live like there is a tomorrow. Go to uchealth.org for more info. UC Health, live extraordinary. Also want to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets easier and faster than ever. I use no one other than Game Time when it comes to getting my tickets. Why? Because they're just the best. I mean, there's nothing bad you could say about them. You have the app, the Game Time app. You go on there a few minutes before a game, first pitch, and you can go find the cheapest possible tickets as you're getting closer and closer to the game. They actually have pretty good seats that you can find for pretty cheap as well, too. So it's not like you're just looking at like nosebleeds either. You can go and look at where those seats are going to be sitting. They have all of the cool graphics that you can see for each arena, for whether you're going to a concert or a game, whatever it is. You could actually just kind of see where your seat's going to be. That's a pretty cool feature. So
tomorrow, Tigers at Rockies, Coors Field, row 22, infield box, section 127, right behind home plate. Guess how much it costs on the Game Time app?
Behind home plate?
Behind home plate, 22 rows up. Basically right
$40 bucks.
$26.
Oh
it got the star. It got the star in the Game Time app as a super deal.
Incredible. That is a super deal, man. That is a super deal.
God, I hope it doesn't rain. I'm going to talk my wife into going.
It's supposed to rain like 3 inches.
I know.
So. Yeah, it's
good for my lawn, though.
Good for the lawns. Well, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account and use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code DNVR for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Can I just admit something here real quick?
Honesty hour?
Huh? Yeah, honesty hour
on the pod?
Just for a moment. I love, talking about our sponsors because I used to be a public address announcer for the Spokane Indians, so it kind of like brings me back to that like announcing side of my life. For UC Health, I have written in there, speak on your idea of health and whatever, and I almost read the actual like instructions right there on that, and I had to pause. That's why it threw me off, because I was like I almost Joe Biden'd it. I almost just started reading the like smile and look happy. I almost started reading that. So yeah, that was
oh my god,
that was a moment for you. That's the first time I've done that. That was I saved it, but
it's
amazing.
We're
hanging out there.
I love that.
Well, before the break, I said there's one thing that I can think of that could possibly save this Rockies season. Take a guess at what you think that might be. One thing that could happen this year that I think could save it. It's wild. You're not going to guess it, but give me something.
I was going to say another firing of someone or a change in ownership.
It's kind of, it could be something along the lines. I think a good Rockies brawl would just light up this season like nothing else. Like if I'm talking like not just the Jake Cave last year screaming and yelling, that was fun, but I'm talking like fists thrown, We
need benches to clear.
Benches clear.
Bullpen clears.
I need someone. I need some old, GM getting tossed across the mound. What was that? Pedro Martinez did that to the Yankees guy. What was his name? I'm forgetting what his name.
I saw a meme about that the other day. Oh, Joe. what is that guy's name?
I know now it's going to bug me.
Yep.
We need something like that though. We need a good Rockies brawl to get the people going. That's why hockey's so electric. I mean, get some tempers flaring.
Don Zimmer.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it was
you.
like you know how
Pedro
that thing's
Martinez
going around.
Don Zimmer.
It was like 100 Don Zimmers versus one Pedro Martinez.
Yeah.
Like can 100 men beat one gorilla?
Yeah, literally.
Yes, a brawl would be great. And who got in a brawl? I know the Rockies have had a few. Who pissed Harper off a couple of years ago?
Oh,
that he charged him out. Was it one of our bullpen?
I don't
pitchers?
remember, but that was when he called us a clown organization.
Yeah, he's not wrong, but but he. I think he also had maybe he won a World Series with the Nats, so I can't go World Series baiting with him. But yeah, a good brawl. I love brawls in baseball because the bullpen, you can see him like running in. You can see people jumping over the dugout. They just need to. I don't know if
fire me up, man.
Yeah, I don't know if they need to start it or they just need to have a crazy situation.
Can I like kind of go from an analysis perspective though? I don't know who on the Rockies would be that good in a brawl. There's not that many fiery personalities. Like Brenton Doyle would be fine because he's just a bigger dude.
Put Kyle Freeland's fire into Doyle, and you have a cyborg there.
But Doyle's kind of a chill guy. Like if you've talked to Doyle, he's pretty relaxed. I don't know Seth Halverson physically, but he's got to get out. He's got to get up from the bullpen. I mean, he's probably coming in by the time things are done. Michael Tolia, again, a big guy, but a teddy bear. I don't know if there's a guy on the Rockies that is like. You know what? Kyle Farmer. Kyle Farmer.
Cal Quantrill back.
Yeah, I know. Kyle Farmer feels like he could kind of go off a little bit.
Yeah,
he's not that intense, but he's a pretty energized guy.
Yeah, Farmer, Martini's kind of like they have a few bodies that you think would be good in a brawl, but you got to be it up here. And I think, like as we spoke on earlier, I think Freeland's the only guy that's fiery enough to, Jake Bird showed some fire when he got the strikeout.
Yeah.
And finished that one inning without allowing any runs after second and third.
Zach Veen would go crazy if he was up here.
Zach Veen is like a kamikaze. Dude. He would just he'd be flying around. Yeah, like they need to have him in the dugout when they incite this brawl.
It's a bowling ball of butcher knives, man. That dude is crazy.
Have Zach Agnos run from the bullpen and just bowl through everyone as a little pit bull. That's what we need. We need a full-on fight.
A brawl would really make baseball so much better, man. Like I'm telling you, that's what we need at this point. I don't know if the Rockies could win it, but hey, I mean, Jose Ramirez knocked out Tim Anderson, and if you look at those two dudes standing side to side, I'd take Tim Anderson in that fight 10 out of 10 times, and Jose Ramirez, down goes Anderson, down goes Anderson. I mean, like that was electric.
Old man, like baseball bod. He's kind of scary. Jose
Ramirez.
I know. He just looks very unassuming, but he is scarier than he looks, that's for sure.
Yeah. Eric in the chat says, I think Marquez might get traded before the deadline. What do you guys think? I don't think so. He has a better chance of getting DFA'd, to be honest, before the deadline than he does getting traded. I don't know what team would trade for him.
Maybe the Rays will get it or maybe the Phillies. They saw his one start of really dominant baseball. They're like, we can throw this guy at the end of our rotation. There's a comment in there, too, from Zenos that said, well, I suppose eventually the Monforts will die of old age and the heirs will sell the team. This could be the light at the end of the tunnel. There's a national sports, and I say that in quotes for those of you listening to the audio podcast that I listen to fairly frequently, and they have no reason to ever talk about the Rockies, and they openly went on a rant for about 10 minutes shitting on the Monfort brothers. They pulled up the graphic of them on their show. They shat on both of them. So
Can I ask who?
Yeah, pardon my take.
Oh, okay.
So this is actually gaining some steam. Quotes for the audio version nationally. Yeah, where like everybody's like, "What the fuck? Like, do something.
What are we doing? Yeah,
something like that meme of the guy poking the little thing on the ground. Do something. Yeah, that's us to the Rockies.
I know, for real. We did a show a couple weeks ago, maybe a little over a week ago, on possible trades, and it's bleak, man. I would love to sit here and say that Marquez and Ryan McMahon, Rymack was the guy that I was preaching for last year on the trade deadline. Him and Elias Diaz. I don't know if there's a guy that you'd be willing to trade at this point that's good enough to warrant a trade, that another team's going to say, you know what, we'll take what they have to offer. Because again, if you were to trade Herman, you're looking at a guy who's getting paid a lot of money for a 9, almost a 10 ERA. So,
can I say real quick, we've talked about, we're not calling for anybody's jobs on this show. That's not our place. we just analyze and talk about it from a fan / analyzation perspective, more fan me in terms of what we see out on the field.
Sure.
But how is Ryan McMahon still hitting third in the lineup? I just can't get myself to understand it.
Streak. I think it's more of the stability in the lineup is what Bud Black has said, like keeping consistency for whatever there is consistency wise. But I agree with you. And that felt like he didn't have a very good answer. So that was like as good of an answer as he could have given.
Right.
I think you look at the rest of the Rockies lineup though, and you say, yeah, Rymac's bad, but he at least has shown in the past he could be good. So you just kind of are basing his lineup placement on his past history of being an all-star and being like a semi-competent baseball player versus like a lot of the other guys, like hell, even Jordan Beck for a while or Michael Toglia, where you're like, I don't have enough history of you being a good hitter to warrant you being up in the lineup.
And I do think I'm enjoying right now. I'm trying to enjoy the Doyle Beck 1-2. I think once Tovar comes back, hopefully here in a week or so, I think a Doyle Tovar Beck 1-2-3 is something that I'm not going to say formidable. I'm going to use my words choice of words wisely here. I don't think it's formidable, but I think it's something that we would like to see as Rockies fans that could potentially be something for the future of those three hitting 1, 2, 3 in the lineup.
Yeah.
And a lot of people too were like talking, I got like 3 or 4 responses and this kind of annoyed me as well while we're on the a little bit of harping on Bud Black for his lineup decisions is why is Amador not playing every day? Like what?
I can tell you why what I've heard of why he's not playing. The Rockies, from the conversations I've had with other media members who've covered this team for a long time and who are very close with Bud Black and Bill Schmidt and all of the other people in the clubhouse, the Rockies do not have faith in Amador's bat. And they did not want to have to call him up before the season was over. They were hoping to have to get to wait until the end of the year to call him up. Injuries pressed the Rockies' hand, and now he's there kind of by necessity, and they don't really want him there. That is what I've heard. Again, I haven't heard that from someone within the Rockies organization, but from within the media circle of people who spend a lot of time around the team and who talk to a lot of the people who make those decisions. That's the vibe that I've been given, is that the Rockies aren't that high on Adael Amador and that they don't trust him yet. And that feels very Bud Black and Bill Schmidt. You know, I mean, we talk about the youth movement and, you know, Bud Black's biggest flaw is committing to that over the last few years. That feels like a prime example of it. Now, I'm not saying that Adael is going to be, you know, your next big thing, but again, the argument, I can't really say too much against the argument of why not at least give him a shot, right? You know, I mean, what do you have to lose? Rockies are still going to try to win games, and Bud Black's going to go out there every single day and try to win a baseball game. But as a fan, I understand the approach of like long-term, like, come on, you know.
Yeah, when you walk into Coors Field for their home game tomorrow and I look up and I see Alan Trejo at short and Owen Miller at second base, I kind of want to just fucking end it. I kind of want to just run onto the field and, you know, throw myself into the net and maybe hope something fun happens.
Yeah, exactly. I will say Owen Miller, I've watched him take some BP, man. He's got a home run swing, but he's our next Sam Hilliard. Yeah, he's that like he can hit it 500 feet. Yeah,
he'll hit 100, 1 for 10, 1 for every 10, but it's a bomb.
And he doesn't look like it either. He doesn't look like he could hit a bomb. Hey, before we wrap up the show, I want to get a reaction. I sent you a picture, Riley, the last picture that I sent you. If you want to throw that up on the screen, we did have some news pop up before the show started for our friends in the NL West. The Diamondbacks got their new City Connect, Los Serpientes, with the S hat. I didn't send you a picture of the hat because I messed up on that one. But but the hat is the coolest part of all of this. Go on Twitter, go on wherever you get your information and look it up. What do you think?
Love it. I
kind of love it too.
The purple and teal. I actually just chose softball team jerseys with my buddies that were forming a softball team, and I made them get purple and black.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you need an extra
I
person?
actually was going to ask, we could ask, we might need somebody, and we need some actual baseball players.
I could jump on.
I love that. Let's do it.
On.
I'm going to fucking text them right when we get off this and be like, hey, I got somebody.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I'm not doing any other broadcasts. It's just Rockies baseball at this point,
Rockies baseball, so we can go some beer league softball. We could start putting our stats up with the Rockies.
Yes,
stats.
you're right. Who had a better day hitting today, Spencer or Ryan McMahon? We'll see how that one goes. Well, folks, we're gonna wrap things up here on the show. We'll get out on time so we don't give our producer Riley a headache. Shout out to you guys for watching and hanging out with us on the chat, and appreciate you guys as always. Drop us a like, subscribe, do whatever you need to do. We appreciate all of you sickos at home, because the Rockies are a tough team to follow, and we do our best to try to make it at least a little bit enjoyable, a little bit entertaining. But I will say we're here with you. We're going through this all together. So appreciate you guys hanging out with us in the chat and watching this season with us. We'll be doing our next show on Wednesday, because Spence and I are going to Mexico. So next show on Wednesday. Thank you guys as always. Shout out to Riley, our producer. We'll see you guys next time. This has been the DNVR Rockies podcast, presented by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.